Hey everybody, this is Tammy here at Crazy Cat Lady Crafting, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you about myself before I start working on the instructions for this video. I'm turned 40 years old this year, and I've been crocheting since I was 9. Between my grandmother and my mother, I was crocheting competently by 15 or 16. It was something that I've always, from the time my grandmother handed me the first crochet hook and taught me how to make a chain stitch, I've done this. I have continuously over the years worked on crocheting. It's something that I truly enjoy. It's very stress relieving. It can be frustrating, but so can anything. And, I am a firm believer that anything worth doing is worth, taking the time to do right. So frustration's part of the game with that. It's, it just happens. It's called take some Tylenol and keep on going. One of the things that you'll notice is in my videos I tend to use Red Heart and Lion brand yarn. That is not any endorsement. It's, nothing other than the fact that my only local yarn store is Walmart. I have 3 Walmarts within 20 miles. All 3 of them carry, some of the same stuff, but a lot of it in the yarn department is different. I have one store that, only has a small section devoted to yarn. I have another store that has 2 whole rows, but they primarily carry Red Heart, Caron. You'll find them with some Lion brand. They are actually coming out with their own brand of yarn now called Mainstays Yarn that I have not had the opportunity to work with yet. So you'll notice that none of my videos at the moment are going to be with fancy designer yarns. I don't like to buy yarn online because, to me, there is nothing you can do for your project, initially that is more important than making sure that the yarn that you're using is the type of yarn you want and need to use. There's so many different textures and weights out there. I've seen it happen. I had a cousin that bought 10 skeins of yarn. It was a good, it was a good color. She liked it. She thought it was what she was going to need to make a blanket. She got it in the mail, and it was a DK weight, which is thinner and more delicate than the worsted weight yarn, which is what she wanted. If I can't put my hands on the yarn to test it and feel it before I start working with it, that's something that, I can't do that. I've got to make sure, because you don't want to buy, this beautifully colored acrylic yarn. I do tend to use acrylics. They're the most popular, and they hold up very well. But anyway, you don't want to use this, acrylic yarn that you love the color in to make a sweater or a cardigan or something of that nature, only to realize when you've got it done, you can't wear the item because it's too scratchy. Definitely always try to feel your yarn and see how it's going to work up for your project before you start. Another thing is I am known for making patterns, not producing patterns. I follow patterns very well. I follow written instructions as well as symbol diagrams. I can alter patterns. I can, change up colors, add decorations, a bunch of different things to them. But it's not very often that I have an independent, this is my pattern and this is the way I'm going to make it. Well, this project is one of those. I'm calling it Monet's blanket, Grandma's Monet baby blanket, because my mother's favorite print in her house is Monet's water lilies. If you've ever noticed it, you notice it. It has a bunch of the blues and a bunch of the greens, the water, the grass, the lilies, the dresses. But here and there under the bridge are splashes of these pink and purple water lilies. And I thought that this colorway was just perfect to make a baby blanket for and with. And the more I worked, the more I decided this is what this reminds me of. This reminds me of my mother's favorite print. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make Grandma's Monet baby blanket. Okay guys, we're going to start this blanket now. You see I have my trusty size H. This is Draco the Draco colorway. It's Mandala Sparkle is the type of yarn made by Lion Brand. It is has these nice soft blues and greens and purples, all with, let's see if I can get that angle for you. A little silver stripe wound through here. It's kind of hard to see. So what we're going to do is, the first thing you do is, the Draco colorway has very distinct separations. It does not fade from like the green into the pink. It's a very definite line where the dye changes. And the first thing I did was to separate those colors and wind them up into little balls. Like this. This is it's called a walnut. You can see the sparkle in there now. So this is what I'm going to be using. Sorry, it rolled right off the table after I finished the first part. Okay, let's go ahead and start making this square for this first square for the Grandma's Monet baby blanket. We're going to start with a chain 5, and then we're going to single crochet to form a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we see our 5 stitches here. We're going to do a slip stitch into that very first chain, and then we're going to slip that stitch right on through the first one, and that's going to give us this nice little ring that we're going to work in, that is going to be the center of our squares. Okay, we're going to go now to start the first round. Because it is connected and worked in a spiral motion, it is considered a round, not a row. We're going to start with a chain 3. If you've watched my granny square video, you know that's a pretty standard way to start a double crochet. Now we're going to do 2 more double crochet. So we'll have a 3 double crochet block right there. We're going to chain 3 in the corners. 1, 2, 3 in the corners. 3 more double crochet right down here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now we're going to chain 3 for the next corner. Do 3 more chains. 1, 2, oh, let's pick those up. 2, 3. Okay, so that's 3 of our chain 3 blocks. So we need 1 more block, and then we'll close this round. 3. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, I know you guys always hear me count, but one of the things that you have to remember is that stitch count is very important in some projects. If you're working on something that has to fit a particular size, always start with a gauge swatch so that you don't have to worry that, you've got too many stitches per inch, and so your project's going to turn out way too big, or you got too few, so it's going to turn out way too small. With this being a blanket, I really don't need to do that because they're more forgiving in size differences. If it's a little bit big, they just got a little bit extra to snuggle up with. So now we're going to take and slip stitch into that first chain of the chain 3 that we started with, and then slip it right on through that other stitch. So you can see right here. Now we're going to slip stitch through this double crochet, second double crochet, and into the chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3, just like before, and then 1, 2. Now we're going to do our chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do our 3 double crochets. 2, 3. Now, if you've already watched my granny square video, you do know that I prefer a chain 2 space right here instead of a chain 3, and I'll show you that right now as to why. 1, 2, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets in that corner just like we did the other one. 2, 3. Now, I want to take just a second here and point out that the reason I like that chain 2 space is because it seems to me that it gives a much crisper, cleaner line. When I use 3 stitches, it looks floppy and, you know, just not very can't find the exact word. It just kind of looks messy and floppy, and, you know, like it was done with somebody who really didn't know what they're doing. And considering I have 31 years experience, I can't do that. You know, I have to, my projects are going to reflect the amount of time I've worked and the skill that I've gained. So we've got a chain 2 space here. Now we're going to do a chain 3 and 3 double crochets in that same corner that we just started. Oh, let's get that down. 2, 3. Oh, no, 2, 3. There we go. Now we're going to chain 2 and 3 double crochet in the stitch, in the corner stitch rather. 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to 1, 2, 3. Okay, chain 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I just pulled all 3 of those chains out right after I did them. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we are finished with our second row, and we've got to join it to the beginning. So what we're going to do, we're going to chain 2, because that is a chain 2 space, and we are going to slip stitch in that, let me get into the stitch correctly, into that top chain of that first chain 3, and then if I can keep the hook on the yarn on the hook, and then we're going to slip stitch it through right here. So you see we have our first square. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the chain 3, the corner section right here, and we're just going to do another row just like that. So let me finish that and I'll be right with you. Okay, here we are now. I finished the third row of the granny square, which is as many rows as we're doing on this. The next row is going to be a very simple single crochet. Now I've already done my slip stitch and joined this row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, slip back into that same stitch, and make a single crochet right there in that first same stitch. And I'm going to make a single crochet in each stitch around. I'm going to make 5 in the corners, that way there's 2 horizontally, 2 stitches vertically, and 1 stitch diagonally, which will give this a very good frame, and you know, it'll pull it into the square shape a lot better. So I'm going to double crochet in each of these, 2 double crochets in these spaces, 5 double crochets in the corners, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, here we are now with our finished granny square. You can see the 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet and spaces, as well as the single crochet here that really firms up that edge. It's going to make it a lot easier to put the border on it in the next video. For the center of the Monet baby blanket, you will need 25 of these in varying colors. And you can use all one color if you want, but I thought that the colorway was just so great that it deserves a little bit of a mix-up. You know, something to draw attention to the yarn, the square with this beautiful yarn, beautiful color. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section of the video, or you can always email me at crazycatladycrafting@gmail.com. The next video, part 2 of this series, is going to show us how to put a border around this and then use the join as you go method to join these squares into strips, and then to join the strips together horizontally to show you how to make the main centerpiece of the blanket. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you'll join me for part 2.